I am your host, Beatle, and I am married to Leah.
And I am your host, Krieg, and I am Sebastian's weed dealer.
And you are listening to Junimo Chatter. On today's episode, the first one, we will talk about Junimos, keepers of the forest. So, Junimos are quite a central part of this game.
Quite.
And I think we should start with the things that we know about them from the game. They tell us that they are these forest spirits, and they have residence in the community center. So you first see them as these tiny little colorful apples running around, and Lewis says, okay, well, you have to take care of this rat problem. And then you get a letter from the wizard saying, oh, I can tell you more about these. And then you start with these bundles. You probably all know all this. Completing a bundle will make a Junimo go collect it and stash it in their little hut, which is also placed in the community center. And then when one of the rooms are completed, the Junimos will place a star above the fireplace. And when all the stars are placed, the community center will be...
It'll be magically fixed.
It will be magically fixed.
The Junimos repair it.
Exactly. And then after, this is a spoiler, by the way, after you complete the Goblin Problem quest for the wizard, it is possible to build a Junimo hut on your own farm. And so these will help you harvest crops, and they'll gather it for you when it's not raining or winter, or they can't gather forage either, crops from garden pots or giant crops. Obviously, because they're so giant, and Junimos are very tiny.
Obviously, you need to swing an axe to harvest giant crops, which Junimos, of course, cannot do.
Yeah. So you have to be careful if you want to plant flowers, because if you want the flowers near the beehives, you have to place them far away, because the Junimos will harvest them. And that's, if you want to keep them for the beehives.
Suboptimal.
Exactly. But you can turn this off if you want to. There's a little icon that you can turn it off on. So in general, Junimos are said to appear in abandoned buildings when nature is taking over. This is a source from Mr. Jasper's book, which is given in one of the secret notes. And yeah, I find this quite interesting. We will talk about that later. It is said that their favorite food is raisins, which is not just something that Concerned Ape has mentioned, but it's actually something you can actually give them raisins. You can create raisins by putting 5 grapes in a dehydrator, and then be sure not to give it to the Junimos directly. They don't want that, because they're kind of shy. So you have to put them in the Junimo hut, and then it will give them a chance to harvest double crops, which is around 20%. They're also said to have a resonant affinity with gemstones. This means that if you put their gemstones in their huts, they will take color of that gemstone. So if you want all your Junimos to be blue, you can just put blue gemstones in there. If you want them to be pink, which I do, you can just put all your pink gemstones in there. And yeah, they will take the colors of said gemstones. So.
And if you put a prismatic shard in there...
Oh, yeah, that's true. If you put a prismatic shard in there, they will change colors. They will just be like shining bright colors
RGB
of all the...
Junimos.
Exactly. But all of these things are set in the secret note number 24, and it ends with all these claims come from dubious, unverified sources.
What? We can verify them.
We can, as farmers. We know that they exist. They harvest our crops.
They work for us.
Exactly. I would say, because it seems like the villagers of Stardew Valley does not know anything about them. But if you see, I think it's secret note number 26, there's a line from Ancient Farming Secrets, line 37, that says, "There's no better helper than a raisin-fed Junimo."
It seems weird that if you have a spouse and Junimos, that the spouse doesn't comment on it.
That's a very, very good take. That's a very good question as well. Because you can see them, obviously. Your spouse doesn't even talk about it or mentions it.
Acknowledge them, but it should be quite obvious. I mean, in most farms, it should be quite obvious that the Junimos are doing something.
Exactly.
Crops are seemingly harvesting themselves otherwise.
Because my idea with the villagers and the Junimos, it seems throughout the game that the villagers know them as like this fantasy creature. If you look at Penny's books, she has a book called Fairies, Junimos, and Other Fables. So they're seen as this like fairy tale creature. And if you were married to Sam, his Fortune Heart event mentions something called the Happy Junimo Show, which is indicating that they might be a fairy tale creature as well. And then you have, of course, the Junimo card game, which is just a card game, so it's not, proving that they're actual creatures that people have seen. And you have the Junimo catalog, which you can buy at the traveling merchant. If you're lucky, you get like a spirits table. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting to see, like, okay, well, are they actually part of our world, or are they part of some kind of spirits world where all the other monsters also part of? Because you have I think it's called spirit dust or sprite dusts, things in the mines, and you have ghosts, and you have other void spirits, I think they're called. So, and they call themselves Junimos, but they are forest spirits, so they could be part of that kind of world, if you could say so. But to go further, there's some secrets about the Junimos that we get to know from some of the notes, the secret notes. On the 28th of any season at noon, exactly, you can go to the playground, the bush behind the playground, press it, and then the Junimo plush appears, which is very cute, very big.
Very cute.
Much larger. It looks like a giant apple.
Yes.
And you can find, from secret note number 14, the Junimo statue, which is stashed behind the community center. And if you, on the title screen, click on any leaves 10 times, 3 Junimos will appear and wave, which is kind of cute as well. There are a lot of secrets behind the title screen. I don't know if you know that. You could just take your mouse, click wherever you want to on all the letters, all the leaves, figure out what's happening. Some interesting creatures.
Interesting stuff.
That might appear.
Maybe we'll have an episode on it.
We could have that. I think we'll try it out.
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. And then of course we have the missing bundle. So what I find kind of interesting is that the Junimos occupy the community center, which is because the community center is abandoned. So that gives me kind of the feeling that they are shy. Obviously, because the note also says you can't give raisins to them directly. You have to give it in the hut. So they're kind of shy. They're not scared, but they're not really that fond of people. Maybe
they keep to themselves, which would also explain why nobody has really seen them.
Exactly.
If they are actively avoiding people.
Exactly. My take on it would be that, well, okay, so they occupy these abandoned places, but it's also places where nature is thriving. Yeah, obviously they're keepers of the forest, so they're these forest spirits, and they like nature, and they want to...
I mean, except for the Junimo huts that we can get onto our farm, all the places that we see them are specifically parts of civilization that have been reclaimed by nature, right? Like the community center and the Joja Mart, the old location.
Yeah.
Right? Which have both been taken over by the wild.
Yeah. Because the thing is, when the community center is finished and the Junimos disappear again, they disappear because now they know that people will hang out there. People will appear. Yes. And so that's why the last Junimo who didn't get to the spirit world or wherever they're going goes to the abandoned Joja Mart, which is obviously abandoned, and there are no humans there.
Yes.
And then you have the missing bundle.
Which is interesting that it chooses to go to the Joja Mart and not hang out in a forest.
I think that's what the little purple Junimo says.
Yeah.
Is that it didn't get to go with the others. I think it says so when you go in there after the lightning rod, or the lightning has opened the door. Anyways, so all of this is kind of interesting. I think we don't really get much at all about these creatures. No. We just know that they're there. We know that they can help us with farming. We know that they're shy. They don't really like people, but they still occupy all these abandoned places where nature starts to thrive again. And I found all this kind of interesting because secret note number 26 is the one saying that, okay, you have to feed your Junimos raisins because there's no better helper than a raisin-fed Junimo. This is something from something called Ancient Farming Secrets, which is kind of interesting because that makes me think, well, ancient people, ancient farmers, maybe they knew Junimos existed. And if they did, they probably, as this note says, has Junimos as helpers and had probably a pretty good relationship with them, because they would feed them raisins and Junimos obviously liked that. They would be happy, and then they would harvest more crops. So my theory is that they had quite a good relationship, and that they weren't always just creatures of fairy tales.
And I might be jumping the gun here, but I mean, that could also make sense that ancient farmers maybe didn't have as much technology, maybe there weren't as many people around. So the Junimos would be much more in touch with nature and probably more willing to be around people, but then intact with people industrializing and kind of removing nature, that the Junimos would then start being more shy and fading into legend.
See, did you read my script?
No.
Because that's exactly what I was thinking. That's what I'm theorizing about. That humans got greedy and wanted, we as farmers, they probably wanted more growth. They wanted more produce, thus more money. So they started industrialization and deforestation, which I can imagine that the Junimos wouldn't want to be a part of, as they are keepers of the forest.
Exactly.
So they went into hiding, I can imagine, after they discovered that humans are, I don't want to say evil, but, kind of, demolishing their homes by deforestation. And then they went to hiding into the forest, or maybe later when all of the forest, or most of the forest are gone, they go to abandoned buildings if nature grows there. Yeah. Like in the community center. And I think that the reason why they show up to the farmer is because they must send some kind of aura or some kind of vibe from the farmer that this farmer has to the ancient farmers. I mean, because you are pretty special as the farmer.
Certainly.
You are, different from the others. Yeah. Not to say the least.
You see ghosts.
You see ghosts. You talk to the wizard. You know about all these monsters. You know about Junimos. I think that Junimos also can see that you are different. You want to, you abandoned this industrialized world for just going to for just living on a farm, being in touch with nature again. And because you abandoned this whole, what's it called? Hamster wheel. Corporation Joja life, I
mean, maybe the Junimos are actually reclaiming you from the industrialized
They could be.
Joja. So
and that's, because that's also why when you purchase a Joja membership, they just disappear. You can't see them anymore.
You can't buy the huts either?
You can't. That's the only place you can see them.
Okay. It's kind of a shame.
Yeah.
Makes sense from a game design, I suppose, but kind of a shame that you can still get the huts even if you have a Joja membership.
Yeah. I mean, if I could change one thing, it would be that if you get the Joja membership, you can buy some kind of substitute.
Yeah.
For things to maybe like a auto harvester or something to harvest your crops.
Or you get a Joja unpaid intern to harvest the crops.
They could do that.
Yeah.
They could do that. I would just more think it likely that, if you purchase the Joja membership, the Junimos will be like, okay, well, we thought that we had a new friend.
Yeah. Clearly this ain't it.
Clearly we didn't. Clearly they just want to still be a part of the Joja. Not to shame anyone who wants the membership. That's okay if you want that. But I think the Junimos would
The Junimos would shame you.
I think they would.
Yeah.
I think they would sit in the...
Let's be honest, they would.
They would. They would sit in the secret woods and be like, damn, I thought we had them.
I mean, it would also make sense why Mayor Lewis can't see them then. I feel he would be a Joja kind of guy.
He would. He really would, if he had the money.
Yeah.
Well, he clearly does with his gold. But he just chooses to use his money otherwise.
Who knows, maybe gold isn't worth much.
Maybe gold isn't worth that much. I mean, it's not as much worth as iridium or diamond. So, I don't know. Kind of interesting, actually. If you find the note about where you can find the golden statue of Lewis, and you don't pick it up, you just go there, and you don't actually get it, there will be a note from him the next day, or a letter from him the next day saying, "Don't tell anyone about this," or like something like, "This is a secret, and I'll pay you for not telling anyone." And it's
he pays you for a lot of stuff.
He does. Lois is like a whole other episode.
Yeah,
for itself.
We're
jumping to
yeah. Okay.
That would be another episode because Lois is like he's something. He's something to discuss.
Quite a piece of work.
He's quite a piece of work, yeah. So I think my theory, and obviously yours as well, clearly, is that Junimos are like, just like, I would not draw a parallel per se, but like back in the old days in the Harry Potter world, the witches and wizards were kind of part of the world. Like people knew about witches and were burning them.
Yes.
But then later on, maybe, the witches and wizard would go into hiding, and then the muggles would not know that they actually existed. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of the same way it goes here, where the Junimos might have just decided, okay, well, we can't be part of this world anymore because they're cutting down our forests and they're industrializing and they're they're burning a little too much coal and not being very kind to the planet and to the nature around them. And so our best choice is just to go into hiding. And then they find like the aura of, I would say that maybe the spirit of the farmer.
Would make sense that they can kind of sense the spirits of people as spirits themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So
maybe they knew Grandpa.
I honestly think so.
Would make sense.
It would make a lot of sense.
But then again, the wizard knew Grandpa, right?
Does he? Did he?
I feel like he's certainly old enough to have known Grandpa.
I don't think he mentions him.
No?
At any point. No.
Maybe not.
No. I don't think the wizard has that much connection to the farm. I think it's more because...
I might be misremembering then.
Yeah. I don't know if the grandfather had like any connections. I mean, it doesn't mention it in the game, but obviously you could theorize about it that the grandpa knew about these Junimos as well.
Yeah.
Maybe we're using them on his farm.
Maybe.
See, the thing is, we noticed in the Spirit's Eve that the villagers know monsters.
Yes.
I don't know if I would say that because obviously they see the cages and they see the skeletons walking around.
Yep.
It's kind of interesting that the Junimos are not a part of it. Yep. Like they're not spirits like the other monsters. Because other people theorizes. I've been on the Stardew Valley forum. There's a lot of different theories there. People mostly theorize that they're spirits of another world coming to our world to restore good things.
It could be a balance kind of thing, that the Junimos are there to balance out the monster spirits. So you get both good and evil spirits.
Yeah, that could be an idea. Yeah, so I do also subscribe to the idea that they are of another world and they want to come to our world and help restore it in some sense.
Yes.
But I feel like when they're mentioned and where they go to, they talk much about the forest. Keepers of the forest, they're spirits of the forest.
Yes.
So in my world, they would kind of be, just spirits of the forest and not necessarily like coming from another world per se.
Maybe they come from some kind of Feywild dimension, some kind of
like another dimension,
spirit forest world. I mean, I would assume that their world is some kind of magical forest plain thing, if anything.
Yeah, because the thing is, if you look at it, how the Junimos behave, there are things about the world that they don't like.
Yes.
For example, they don't like rain.
Yes.
They don't go harvest in the rain.
Nope.
Why don't they do that?
I mean, same reason why I wouldn't want to do work outside in the rain, perhaps.
I feel like as a farmer, especially in the old days, you had to just farm when you had to. I mean, there's not really any time to waste, so to say. And if it's raining on the day that your crops are ready, and especially if it rains on a day when you have like a long time crop, like a melon or something.
Yes.
You need to harvest it, plant some new ones on that day. Otherwise, you're not gonna be able to harvest them again at the end of the month. I feel like it's just more interesting that they're not gonna harvest in the rain. Because you can do it. I know that the animals don't like go out in the rain, but they don't have a job to do either. I mean, the Junimos does kind of have a job to do, or not have to do. They're your helpers, obviously, but there must be some reason why they don't go out in the rain. Maybe they melt. I hope not.
I hope not. Yeah. Especially with them normally living outside. But then again, they don't really live outside. They have their huts.
Yeah.
Which, again, I mean that is still some kind of civilization, in a sense. It's more than nothing.
I feel like it's just interesting that if they don't like the rain, maybe it's because they're from another world where it doesn't rain.
Yeah, maybe.
And then when they go to your world and want to help you, they feel like the rain is kind of... They just don't know, like, how to... They're just scared of it, I guess.
Could be the pollution in the rain.
Could be the pollution in the rain. It's also kind of interesting to talk about the green rain.
Oh,
Where that comes from. Because it's, you know... The first time I saw it, I was kind of thinking acid rain.
Yes.
Because it has that vibe. It has that,
Yes.
like, this is, like, coming from a polluted world.
Absolutely.
Polluted atmosphere.
Absolutely.
And then again, I would really get why the Junimos do not want to go out in that. But then
the green rain is not acid rain. It actually makes things grow.
Yeah.
But again, that might just mean that it's... I want to say it could be just radioactive rain.
I don't think it's radioactive. It's green though.
It is green. And don't you also use some... I can't remember exactly what they're called, but some of those radioactive bars to also make fertilizer?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
But I would call it GMO.
Yes. But you still
like
use...
you're manipulating with the crops in that sense.
Yeah.
You know. That's the take I have from it, at least. From the radioactive. Because
Yeah.
it's not...
But if the rain is radioactive in the same way as the
That's a good
fertilizer,
point. That's a very good point. It is green.
it will also make sense why it causes so much havoc in the weather forecast.
Yeah, you can't even watch TV
Nope.
the whole day. Or the
Yeah.
day before that, they're like, what is
What
this?
is this?
What is happening?
Or maybe it's just magic.
I'm fairly sure that it's magic, because I feel like if it's radioactive materials, it would also be because we in the real world have climate changes. We have like
Yes.
floods and all that, and we know why that is because of climate change. And if we did have some kind of acid rain, I feel like we would also like know why that is,
Yes.
because we would just analyze like the meteorology of it and figure out that, okay, this is coming from this part of the world where we have all these like there's not going to come an acid rain obviously, but still we would have like science to prove some kind of reason as to why the rain is what it is. But in this world it's like it's green, we don't know what is going on.
I mean, even if it is radioactive, it clearly isn't. It would not be radioactive in the same sense as it is in the real world, because then everybody in Pelican Town would be dead from radioactive poisoning.
Yeah.
But again, you do put radioactive material into your fertilizer, and that works somehow. So
And none of the villagers are actually outside when it rains.
that too.
Yeah. Demetrius is outside.
Yeah.
But he's wearing...
He has his hazmat suit on.
He has his hazmat suit on.
The
so,
farmer's outside without protection.
but the farm is also kind of magical. The farm is also kind of
True.
like... I feel like the farmer can handle a lot more stuff than the normal villager can.
However, the rain would, also go into the water supplies of the village. So they would ingest it sooner or later.
Yeah. Kind of looks like the sewer.
Yeah.
Liquid. Like the water that's in the sewer.
Anyways.
Which is... we're
We
going
are
on...
getting on a tangent.
We're going on a
It's
tangent.
a separate episode.
I think it's just kind of interesting that the Junimos do not like the rain at all. Not even the
Yes.
green rain, but every kind of rain.
Yes.
And I feel like that might be because they are from another world where they don't have rain,
Yep.
or where they're just, I feel like, scared of it. Then again, they are tiny, so
Yep.
maybe it's just annoying.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's raining. I would much rather stay inside my hut and eat
I
raisins.
mean, they also get cold. They stay inside during the winter.
That's my other question. Why not the winter? I mean, obviously, you don't have a lot of crops growing through the winter. You have the powder melon, and
You can have crops.
you can have crops.
I think they just get cold.
Yeah. They do have very tiny feet.
Yep.
Yeah. Tiny arms.
Yep.
Other questions that people have been asking, and that I am also very curious for your opinion in.
Okay.
So, you donate all these things in the
Yes.
community center. You
Yes.
donate all these, you donate all this food, and you donate all these items and everything. You donate a lot of money
Yes.
for the bus.
For the bus.
But the bus is fixed by magic.
Yes.
Where did the
What-
money go?
What?
Where does the money go?
What do Junimos need money for? I mean,
Exactly.
everything else I can understand.
Yeah.
It's magic. But money?
Isn't that exactly what they're against?
It is. But at the same time, it might be a recognition that money is still necessary. Because it's not as much money as you would use with Joja. Money is necessary for society to work, but an excess of money can also be a bad thing.
Are you trying to say that like there's description, like a story behind it? Like why we would have to pay money for the bus repair?
Yeah, I'm saying it's not... It could be a recognition that money, like everything else, is part of, ever well-balanced something.
Yeah.
But it's only... it's only part of the pursuit. It's not the entire goal.
Yeah.
As it would be with Joja.
Yeah, that's true.
Because again, I mean, even the ancient farmers must have used money, right?
They must have.
Quite an old concept, after all.
Yeah, that's true. Further discussion with the Junimos. What puzzles me the most is that you talked about that they could have some kind of connection with Yoba, the religion of the game. There's no connection like directly between it. No. There's no description of when you hear the story of Yoba, when you read about it. There's no connection between that and then the Junimos. Yeah. But there is one connection I feel like there maybe should be pointed out, is that when you complete a bundle, you get a star, and the star is placed on the over the fireplace.
Yes.
You also, like, stars are like a
reoccurring.
It's a reoccurring thing in the whole game. Because you can also go around and find star drops. Yep. Which are very magical, I would say.
Quite.
And then there's the Winter Star, the Feast of the Winter Star.
Yes.
When, I think it's Willy, you go over to Willy and you ask him about the story of the Winter Star.
What's up with this?
Exactly. And then he tells you that it's because there's this star that's always appearing on the 25th over Stardew Valley, and it's only over Stardew Valley that it appears.
Yes.
And the wizard is said to say that, well, the reason why I'm staying here in the valley is partly because there's, the Winter Star is only above the Stardew Valley. The valley is just magical in some way.
Yes,
and that's why
certainly.
The wizard is staying there. There are a bunch of other reasons why he stays there, and we'll also touch on that in some other episodes. The wizard is quite interesting, I would say.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. He also has a connection with the Junimos, obviously, because you get to decipher the language. The language is just basically replacement of our letters into another alphabet.
Yep.
But yeah, he gives you something questionable, and then you get to actually be able to read whatever the Junimos.
Yeah. What is also interesting is that the Junimos also seem to be avoiding him. He essentially had to trap one to even get to them.
That's true. That's really true. Maybe he's experimenting on them.
Could be.
I hope not.
He is doing research. That is why he's staying in the valley. I don't think his experiments would be intentionally malicious, at the very least. He seems to be very big on the balance thing, or at least I would assume so. Yeah, he's interesting.
He's interesting. Let's talk about that in another episode.
Yes.
But I mean, they have a connection with him, obviously. I think it's because he's been not experimenting on them, but,
trying to track them down.
Trying to track them down and trying to decipher their magical
Figure
world.
out what is their deal.
Exactly. And he also has a connection with the Winter Star. They have a connection with stars. Yeah. But I don't know if Yoba has a connection with the Winter Star. I know that in Christianity, for example, that the star on the sky on the 25th, the Star of Bethlehem, has a connection with God, obviously. It's not as clear in the game that the star has a connection with Yoba. What I feel like is a connection is that Yoba is created from this, or Yoba creates the world from a seed.
Yes. Presumably Yoba would also have created the Junimos.
Yeah.
Presumably.
He would have.
But if there's any connection beyond that, it's hard to say.
They're a puzzling creature. I would say. I mean, we could make another episode and talk about if we just really theorize about it. Like what kind of connection would they have with the spirit world and with our world.
Yes.
And why they are fable. I feel like the reason why they're a fable is because they are part of our world. Like generally. And people have seen them. Yeah.
So that's maybe it for today's episode.
I think that's it for today. I don't think it's the last time we will talk about the Junimos. Because they're quite an interesting. But this was kind of like an introduction. More of like an, what are they actually? Why are they actually in the game? What are we? I mean, obviously we know that they are used for like harvesting crops, and it's kind of a good thing to have when you have so many other things to do in the game. Obviously, if you want to receive or achieve perfection and stuff like that. So it's kind of nice to have them on your farm, and the only thing you have to do is plant, which is way faster than harvesting.
Exactly.
And if you already have reached your highest level of farming, it doesn't make any sense to keep harvesting crops if you can just have the Junimos. Plus, they're extremely cute to have walking around, and they can double harvest, which is more than you can do.
They are very good for repeatable crops, in particular, because then you don't have to replant.
Exactly. I feel like they're just, much more mysterious than that. And like, in my opinion, the most plausible idea or the most plausible theory would be that, according to the ancient farmers' secrets, that people knew about Junimos. They have once been an actual thing for farmers, and they've been helping them, and they've been kind of in harmony, I would say, with humans until humans discovered...
Until humans got too greedy.
Yeah, until humans discovered industrialization and started deforestation and,
all that bad stuff.
Yeah. So, it's kind of like maybe history, repeating itself. But yeah, definitely not the last time we're talking about Junimos.
Yep.
But on this note, I think we'll
end the episode's just about here. All right. We don't have any audience questions, but we can pose the audience a question. What do you think about Junimos? Let us know. If you are listening to this on YouTube, let us know in the comments. If you're listening to this on Spotify, go find us on YouTube and write in the comments. While you're there, why don't you give us a like and subscribe and hit that bell? You have been listening to Junimo Chatter. We'll see you next time.
Bye.